Volume 9 of RWBY just ended. And that would also mean that the whole series has ended. Well, you guys wanted me to review just Volume 9 only, so makes it easier time for me then. Hello everybody, my name is Sampo, and today we are reviewing Volume 9 of RWBY. There is a few things that I actually do want to say. There's a lot of things I kind of want to talk about, but I'm gonna be straight with you right now. Majority of the things I want to talk about that I actually really do like are actually really just around the near at the end of the series. There are still a few things I will talk about for the other episodes of Volume 9. It's just that it's going to be just majority. I'll speak more of my thoughts and feelings of it at the very close to the end, at least the middle to the end of the volume, which to be honest would not be that long. The volume is only like 10 episodes. Yeah, this volume is 10 episodes compared to the 15 to 20 episodes that we used to get for the previous volumes. I think the shortest volume that we actually got, I think it was either 12 episodes or 15 episodes, and this is 10 episodes. Considering that Rooster Teeth did say that the series is ending at Volume 9, and there's no plans for 10 yet. But I don't know what I would say about that. But before we actually start, there's a few things I want to tell you about for this review specifically. I am not going to show you any clips. Even with the volume off, I cannot show you any clips because of Rooster Teeth copyright. Strangely enough, I mean Death Battle's thing has been lifted, but not this one. So like, beats me. Also, I did watch the series. It's just that, for one thing, I saw a lot of clips on YouTube. I'm trying to avoid them as much as possible, but don't worry, I actually watched the whole thing as of now. But sometimes I got a little careless and watched some of those anyway. Those scenes make me question a lot of things because they're really just out of context. Even with the context of that clip specifically, the whole episode, I just don't know what's going on, honestly. But yeah. So, you guys might be wondering, where did I actually watch the series? It ain't hell Crunchyroll, I'll tell you that much. I used to watch all my shows either on separate other websites, and you can technically watch them for free. If you know, you know. I am not gonna tell you where I watch RWBY, but just let you guys know, it is not Crunchyroll, and sadly, it is not on Rooster Teeth's main website. So instead of showing you those clips, I'm going to show you some screenshots, and I will explain some of them along the way. It's very similar to my miraculous Ladybug reviews that I am going to be doing. I'm just still waiting for the perfect time for that because I don't know if all the episodes have been released. But don't worry, that will come out soon. But enough about all that stuff. Let's get into the main volume proper. But this is Volume 9 RWBY review for majority of the episodes, and I'm going to tell you this one time, I might do this in multiple recordings because to be honest I don't have that much time now, but I am trying to get you guys this video out as soon as possible because I haven't done a video, just mostly clips of other YouTubers and some of my other projects, and since I'm still busy with my finals at this point, I kind of need a break. So here are my thoughts on it. Let's get going. This whole thing will contain spoilers, so if you want to watch Volume 9 all by yourself now, this is the chance to get off, put this on your watch later list or something like that, and come back and you can hear my opinions. And again, this is my opinions, and considering how the RWBY fandom treated me before, I think I'll get a lot of flack for this, but please hear me out. Please don't be like them. We start off with episode 1 with 2 suns. I'm just kidding. We technically start this off with the flashback to what happened in Volume 8's finale, where everybody dies. until the end credit, the post credits, where they're not dead, just in a different world. Thank God, hopefully. I don't know, but yeah. So basically, in this part, we wake up with Ruby, basically looking out for this whole world, and you can see it's the tree right here. So I'm not gonna show you all that much for episode 1 because it's kind of self-explanatory. The rest of Team RWBY are going to try to find each other and also try to find their items. We have Ruby trying to find the other people. She meet up with a friend, which is a mouse. I forgot the mouse's name. I'm a little upset I forgot the mouse's name. But for my defense, they didn't really say the mouse's name all that much. They might have said it just once, or twice, or possibly 3 times in like very spacious amounts of episodes. So yeah, I think they only gave her the name like at the very end, like yeah, at the very end, which is episode 10, and I even forgot the name too because goddamn, I cannot remember that freaking name. But you know what? Who cares? Oh, actually no, I care, and I know that you guys care. So yeah, I do apologize though, but that's my defense. They never really said the name all that much. So here's Ruby, and then Blake and Weiss are together. Basically, they actually fell together, which makes sense because from the previous episode, or should I say like previous volume, the finale, yeah, they both fell together, which is a little sad. I think that's true. Yeah, they both fell together. At this point in time, they're trying to find Blake's sword. That's kind of all I got to say. But then, you know, they get captured by a tribe of mouses. And no, I am not going to elaborate on that further. You guys have to figure that out yourselves. Because I don't want to spoil all that much. But then again, you got a warning for spoilers, so I mean, yeah. But there's not really much to talk about. Kind of self-explanatory in these first few episodes. So we have all these 3, and we're gonna find Yang right now. The mouse is with them as a guide. Maybe a kind of a terrible guide, but you know, she wants to join in too because there's nothing really much better to do. That's what I'm gonna say. And then we meet up with Yang. Yang is missing an arm. Reason why? Well, a purple talking raccoon stole it. That's all I'm gonna say. Also, we did meet a entity, and to be honest, you could technically call it an entity, which tried to battle with Yang, but then he ran away. They saw these 3, confront them, and then like Yang threw a rock. It was a very big rock. Yeah, that's kind of all about it. That fight didn't really last all that long, honestly. It's that you can say that entity is kind of a coward if it's being ganged up on, basically. And then at the end of the episode, we see the whole view of this world. Well, first we got the world the island that they're on, and you can see that these are the other worlds that they have to go. And because of all this theming, you can tell that this is a Alice in Wonderland type of theme, basically. That's kind of how I feel, that's how I feel about it. And to be honest, there's a lot of Alice in Wonderland stuff related to here. Hell, even the character that we're going to be discussing later is basically that has the name Alice, so there's that. Unfortunately, we will not see every single world here. We only see like first the world that we're on, and then the other 3, which is the red one, the mushroom one, and the candy one. Those are technically the only places that we see. At least I think we saw the candy one. I cannot really remember. But then we go a little deeper further in. There is a few other places that we will see, but mostly just one scene only because of we're following a different character. But as of now, Team RWBY is all together, and they're gonna try to find their stuff. So, overall, this episode is a very good starting point. I would say that they didn't show all that much. But as long as their pacing is like this, then I don't really mind. But unfortunately, you already know this is 10 episodes, so pacing might be a big problem here. Okay, I'm gonna tell you this, the intro. The intro basically was played during like the post-credits, not post-credits, in the credits of the first episode. I get volume and episode mixed up sometimes when I'm talking about RWBY, so forgive me. But yeah. The intro Fourth best, I would say. It's like, I'm not really a big fan of the RWBY intros, in all honesty. I do like the music that goes with them, but I think Volume 9 is actually really up there. I would say that the intros I actually do like is literally just the intros from Volume 1 to 3, and then 9 is like the fourth one. Every other one kind of sucks, especially the, I don't like to say this, but the music as well. But the music is actually really good for this one, but for most RWBY intros, I only would listen to them once, because, you know, they'll basically play out like multiple times, and I mean, it's nothing wrong with it, it's just not my cup of tea, in honesty. But in this intro, we do see one thing. I think this is part of the intro. I can't really tell, but we see RWBY's weapon right here, and we see the mysterious girl here. If you guys already know, if you are just watching this review, you already know who this girl is, but I'm not going to say her name yet. That will be spoilers, but I might pop the name here soon, like later in the video. But RWBY's weapon's over here. Now, you might be wondering where's RWBY, right? Well, I think it's kind of self-explanatory with the footprints. RWBY just kind of walked away and kind of forgot to bring it. That might be one reason, but there might be other reasons. There also could be another reason that this is somewhere else. Who knows? That's my speculation on it. So we basically have this scene. This scene is one scene that you guys kind of already know if you saw on YouTube. It's one of the funnier scenes. Weiss kind of losing her marbles on trying to figure out a logical explanation for all this in a fantasy setting. She is kind of like the last one to kind of catch on that this whole place is basically a storybook about the ever after. The storybook that they read as children. It's kind of a little bit meta because we do know about the story of the ever after basically in one of Rooster Teeth's smaller side stories for their tales, but I don't really listen to them because I don't count them as kind of canon, but it is kind of pretty nice. So anything that the series says is canon kind of is. I have more stuff to say on that later, but yeah. But you already know, Weiss is just frustrated on trying to put the pieces together and see what happened, and needs to know what actually really happens here. But that's kind of all I could say. And the rest of the episode, and I think it's kind of true, that the rest of the episode is kind of self-explanatory, but this is basically maybe one of the funnier scenes. I just have a big smile on my face when doing this. And to be honest, this is literally trying to go for like volume like 1 and 2 vibes, which is nice for me, but why the sudden tone change beats me, but kind of makes sense, I guess. It took a lot of walking, but they're finally at the bridge, basically. The bridge to go to, well, I don't know what this world is gonna be called, but I'm gonna say the game world. What the? It's. Do you guys? I don't remember, but I think it's just like a red place, game piece, which is called the game piece land, basically. Because all the people over here, later we'll see, is all a bunch of game pieces. But we're gonna go here. The mouse kind of doesn't, like, I think like they don't want the mouse to come because like she doesn't know what's further on to that place, but you know, it is what it is. It's hard to explain honestly because I don't remember the exact words. Because like, again, it's kind of just more world building. It's just not that much to talk about honestly. I did say that I have more stuff to talk about like later into the volume, but like, yeah, we're gonna put it right there. I do have one thing to say, and it's this scene right here. It's a cute scene, although you can already tell what they're implementing. At this point in time, Blake did actually swipe her hand on Yang's hand just a tiny bit, and they're actually just having fun together talking, basically. Blake made a pun. Maybe just settle it for Yang. Yang makes puns a little bit tiny bit better, but you know. But it is a very cute scene. Although I do think that people have to kind of take this out of proportion. But then again, throughout later, you guys already know. But I'm not gonna spoil it just yet. I will talk about it more later. There's nothing really much about it. It's kind of gonna happen sooner or later, but yeah. I do have a bit of problems with this on how it's executed though, so stay tuned for that. I told you guys there's gonna be a lot of game pieces here. So in this town, basically, it's all a bunch of game pieces. The purple raccoon is going to be here, and they're trying to find that item, basically. And that's kind of it. The only other thing is that it's the prince's birthday today. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna talk more about it because it's kind of self-explanatory. The purple raccoon does have a thing that he needs from the person who wants to make the trade, basically. Sometimes it's like either a hug, and sometimes it's your like happiest and saddest memories and stuff like that. So like, yeah, that's kind of about it. But don't worry, they got Yang's arm back, and also RWBY wanted to get something else too, and it was a green doll. And what that green doll was the green doll was Penny's sword, like Penny's organic sword. It is a really sad thing, honestly. This is like, I like this moment because like it just goes through like memories and all that stuff, and it's also just a painful reminder that Penny's dead again. It's not a spoiler for this volume. It's like a spoiler for volume 8, which you guys should have seen already. But yeah, Penny's dead again. Let's move on. Now, you guys think I might actually put a filter on this? No, it's just literally this. It technically started to rain. Apparently, the weather in this island basically changes due to a person's extreme emotions, and RWBY's just feeling depression. So it sounds about right, honestly. And that's kind of about it. At the very end, RWBY will give up the sword to give it as a gift to the prince because they need to talk to the prince, basically. And that's about it. Anything that happens left is up to you guys if you want to see. But that's all I could say. It's really self-explanatory. I could just show you like 3 screenshots and I could just tell you like a little bit. There's nothing really much to talk about in these early episodes. Although episode 3 would be technically like maybe my second favorite episode for the volume, so let's get to that. So here's episode 3. So we got to the Princess Red Castle. And it's a really good looking castle. And here is the prince. He's a short little brat, that's what he is. I think they actually intentionally make this character to be an unlikable brat. And honestly, they made it work. Unfortunately, I feel like he might be just that type of character. I don't know. Here's the thing. It's kind of a little coincidence because when I watched this episode, right, I actually watched the Last Wish, the Puss in Boots, the Last Wish. I can't speak. Yeah, Puss in Boots, the Last Wish. I actually watched that, and watching this afterwards, like, damn, did Rooster Teeth tried to emulate like Jack Horner? I don't know, but this kid seems like Jack Horner, honestly, a Jack Horner wannabe. But if Jack Horner was much more of a little brat who is not funny and all that stuff. Yeah, I feel like they try to imitate Jack Horner. He ain't no Jack Horner. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, after this, we do get to see how ruthless he is. I am not going to tell you what he did to his guards, but if you know Alice in Wonderland, you would already know what he is supposed to be and what he did to those guards. So let's keep it at that. So at this point, in order to know where to get to the tree, because the tree in the story that they have is basically where they need to go back home. So RWBY tells like if she wins the game, he has to tell them where to go. And if they lose, I don't remember what it is, but at least if you want to know, I think it's like something a little bit typical, like being a prison or something like that. or like the lower subjects, whatever. I really don't know. But yeah, what comes following after this? I'm not going to tell you what happens into this fight because this fight is one of the more interesting ones, and it's the reason why like it's my second favorite episode. Also, the music. This music feels so much like Volume 1's and 3's soundtrack that I just feel like a lot of nostalgia, but also just a lot of pumped up feeling, and I just love it. I love the chessboard fight scene a lot. It is a little confusing on the why the white pieces attack like their own team. Well, their own team as in the 3 other pieces, which I'm not going to spoil for you. You guys have to watch that to find out. I am not going to spoil everything. I did say there's going to be some spoilers in this video, so yeah. There's not really much to talk about for this whole section, basically, because it's just kind of like the fight scene. We do see, however, the one big character that I am going to say, and it is this one. This character is named the Curious Cat, which we'll learn about the Curious Cat a bit more later into the series. The Curious Cat actually came in and tried to save RWBY and the others from the prince's demise, basically. If you guys know, you already know. But on honesty, like, I actually do get the bad feeling like, oh, he's gonna be that character who just betrays the heroes, right? Technically, no. But later into the series, that turns to a yes. And how? We'll discuss that later down the road. It's kind of those spoilers that I cannot really avoid because that goes in for everything I have to do, so yeah. After that, that's kind of it. They escape, and yeah, that's kind of about it. Also, if you guys remember, Neo fell to the world too. So where is she? She's in this dark world, and she does unlock an awakening. Which, to be honest, I didn't know that semblance can like awaken like quirks from my hero, but okay. I feel like they wanted. I feel like at this point, somebody in the writing team just watched my hero and was like, "What if we make Neo like Twice?" If you guys don't remember, Twice is basically the villain. One of the villains in My Hero Academia. He can clone himself, and he can also clone other people. Guess what Neo can do now? She can clone herself, and she can clone other people now. And those clones can clone themselves to be other people. And they all have their mind of their own. So yeah, that's a too big of a coincidence, I would say there, Rooster Teeth. But yeah. So Neo basically has a semblance awakening, I would say. So she can clone herself, and she can basically make copies of other people, and those copies of other people basically have the original personality of that person. And what she did to this, the first thing she did when she woke up is that she realized this power, and then she murders the entity. Yeah, considering that the thing is like the entity was strong enough to like go on par with at least Team RWBY, then he kind of just gave up. I mean, like, man, the entity is just a wimp, honestly. I don't know why, but it's kind of brutal, disturbing, but also somehow funny, because like, first it's like brutal because Neo just like kind of ripped this guy to shreds with her clones. She just ordered all her clones to attack, and then it's kind of brutal because of the screams that this guy made. And it's funny because this guy was able to put up a good fight before, and now he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of wish we saw more of this person, but I mean more of this entity. But like, you know, it is what it is. But it's gonna be a very interesting thing that happens next. So let's get going to episode 3. I think this is episode 3 next. Yeah, episode 3 should be next, so here we go. I lied. It was episode 4 that's next, and we are going to be talking about that episode 4 right now. Not really much to say. We just gotta talk with the curious cat, and the curious cat has a lot of questions because he's curious. And then, in a turn, basically, the cat will be the guide to the tree. RWBY will tell basically the story of what happened, basically giving a rundown of what happened throughout all the volumes. Which we'll never hear because, in all honesty, it's just, yeah, we're not going to hear it. We don't hear it because we all, as the audience, know what the hell just happened. Not the cat, though. So we just kind of skip through all that, and I don't think they're even halfway there. They did, however, gone to the mushroom. I was gonna say Mushroom Kingdom, but that was not true. It's not even a kingdom. They're gonna go to the Mushroom Land. Mushroom Land. I'm gonna say Mushroom Land. That's where they go to, basically. I just kind of summed up like half of this episode, so that's like 10 minutes of this episode for free for you. So like, yeah, thank you. You're welcome too. So the rest of our team basically kind of just wandering around. They kind of got lost because the cat kind of got distracted and just kind of went forward. And then we saw these leaves. These leaves, I will say now, they're from the tree. And this is where we meet our man. He has no name actually. This guy, I don't think this guy has a name. I kind of forgot. But yeah, it's this guy. This guy is the herbalist. This man is called the herbalist. I would say witch doctor, but he's not really a doctor and not a witch. But he's basically a slug man. Not a slug man either. He's a caterpillar. You could tell because of the details. Listen, I saw a lot of caterpillars, okay? So, like, I know what they look like. So he's just basically a caterpillar and with so small wings. A humanoid caterpillar, kind of, not really exactly. Like a hybrid of a few animals, basically, possibly. But yeah, he's a herbalist. He just got it cleaned up. And now, RWBY and the others, well, mostly RWBY, try to ask can they get the rest of her friends back to normal, because at this point they're small. How they're small, there's gotta be stat spoilers. I am not gonna tell you about that. You gotta go watch the previous episode for that, which is episode 3. But all this happens, it's kind of just out there, honestly. And then, like, he leads them to his home so he can help them, basically. He is a bit tired of these so many questions, and he is a very straightforward person. Don't you hate it when you're just being very straightforward, and you just need a straightforward answer, but then your listener just like asks other questions in response, and you just get tired about that? Yeah, I understand that, man. But like, for this, he always asks the same question: do you know who you are? Do you know who you want to be? Basically, do you know that you actually reached that goal yet? And this is one scene where a lot of people on YouTube already kind of put this as a clip, and it's a very good one too. A very, very good one. I really love this scene. Basically, everybody gets covered in smoke. They get tripped out on a trip, you know, and then they start seeing their older selves. And now here's the thing. I actually love this scene for many reasons. For every single person, basically. Yang, Blake, Weiss, RWBY. The voice actors did a phenomenal job on this. Not only that they used their current voices that they use for the current versions of these characters, but they actually tried to imitate how they sound like in the past. So what you're hearing in this scene is basically hearing the voice actors doing their current characters' voices, and then they're trying to imitate how they voiced the characters back in Season 1, Volume 1, basically. And it's like, that's just phenomenal. Just claps to them. I actually love this. I love the whole scene and the details on it. And what this all represents is that the majority of these characters are basically trying to fight back in the quote-unquote these wants and needs. The earlier versions of them trying to tell them to basically go back to how it was before, you know? Or for Weiss's sake, it's more like you kind of rejected your family name. You're kind of like a nobody now, but you can always go back and actually take that name back. And then there's for Blake. Blake basically is like, you know, try to be, you can just be like a Faunus. You can just be like your own person. You don't need to fit in with other people anymore. And then for Yang is like, don't you want to be whole again? That's like the most simplest one I could find out. I mean, I don't know why. But yeah. So what happens after this is that both, well, Blake, Yang, and Weiss basically argue to their past selves that they became what they are now because that they left in the past. They're all claim themselves to be huntresses at this point. Yang doesn't really want to be whole again, which is kind of surprising, honestly. I always assume, because of the previous volumes, Yang kind of want her old arm back, but she kind of lived with it. I'm guessing technically that makes sense because she kind of kept on going at this point, and she already knows that just these scars, basically, these scars kind of tell her that to keep moving forward, basically, because it's kind of hard to explain, honestly. I mean, for me, it's kind of hard to explain, but I get it. I really do get it. Is that you leave the past behind you and you keep moving forward, basically. For Blake, it's exactly the same. She wants to move forward. She wants to bring unity between Faunuses and people still. So she is a huntress in that perspective. She doesn't want to go back hiding in fear, or at least go to her more animal side. She wants to be more human, which, to be honest, is also a secret explanation on what happened later with that little scene that came before. And then for Weiss is like, she wants to be her own person. As simple as I can put it. And they all say they're huntresses. Now what about RWBY? Well, RWBY doesn't really have that answer yet. Her old self is like kind of taunting her a little bit. She says the same things as the other people, as the other versions of her team said as well. Except for one thing, RWBY doesn't know what she wants to do, and that makes sense. RWBY is the youngest. Again, yeah, I think a lot of people forgot that she is the youngest member of the whole Beacon Academy. She is 4 years younger than everybody else, every other student. And she was forced to mature this quickly and forced to be a leader at this moment in time. Or at the very least, like, tried to keep her cool. But we all know she can't. And at this point, she's kind of broken. She kind of left everything to asunder. Her dream was to be a huntress, a hero, but she realized that trying to help people didn't really help people. In fact, most of the people that she cares about trying to save as well died. So like, she doesn't know what she wants to be. And then her past self is like, well, don't you really want to be like those heroes in the stories? Trying to be there, help everybody in need, basically. And this is one thing, and this is like, damn, where did I heard this before? This is exactly like the thing Midoriya from My Hero is actually experiencing, at least like in the past. But Midoriya, compared to RWBY, I'm sorry I'm making this comparison, but like it's really just there. It's really just it's just right there. So the thing is, like, Midoriya, Deku, right? Basically, he already figures out that no matter what, he will try. He knows that he cannot save everybody, but he will try his best to save everybody. Kind of like something like All Might does. Because it's a hero thing, right? For RWBY, it's different. And for RWBY, it's a more realistic take on the mentality of this. It's kind of like those, like, shonen, it's kind of like those typical, like, heroes that you always see on cartoons or read in comic books. But like, just like the reality. You want to save everybody, but what happens that you still want to follow that dream, but you fail every single time? You manage to save some people, but not all. And this is like RWBY trying to be in his most, like, the most like psychological thinking that I could ever think of. And maybe, yes, it's not that deep, because there are maybe some other shows that goes deeper to this. But this is the first time that I think they actually gone this deep with RWBY. And this is the most realistic thing. Trying to be a hero, it's not gonna work out that way. There's always going to be that one big line that it is always impossible, or at the very least very, very improbable. There will be times that you can, but there's a majority of the times that you can't. And RWBY doesn't really want to accept that, basically. And she wishes that she can be more than herself. But here's the thing. Compared to everybody else, they're all just themselves. They accepted who they are. RWBY, in the short term, with this added in, she doesn't really believe in herself anymore. Or at the very least, she doesn't trust that she can. She doesn't believe that she is herself. That she wants. She's not the person that she wants to be. And that's the simplest term. Maybe what I'm saying is like maybe kind of not exactly like related to anything, but I have a hard time saying this. But I'm hoping that you kind of understand where I'm actually going with this. Is that RWBY has a hard time trying to find herself, trying to be herself. She's trying to be what others want her to be. She wants to be herself. She wants to force herself to be that hero that can save everybody. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And therefore, she's a little bit less motivated, and her mental stability is kind of waning. And with this fog, it's actually waning a lot more. And what happens next? Well, to be honest, RWBY never actually gave a confirmed answer, because after this, the cat actually saved all of them from the smoke. Why is it just all of them and not just RWBY? I really don't know. But what happens next is this. The cat saved them, and then the herbalist was kind of shocked, but then he kind of had that moment of regret that he was going a bit too far, and then a giant hole just appeared, swallowed him, and then it's closed, and everybody was just yeah, this is just the shot that it ended on. This is the shot that it ended on. It's kind of priceless. Even I was like, what the fuck? Now, you might have noticed that I've been like talking a lot for that one. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I really want to talk about for that. And that's kind of about it. So that's episodes 1 through 4. Once we get to episodes 5 and then further beyond, there's a lot more stuff I do want to talk about. But episode 4 is actually that point in time where I really want to talk about that ending part. Because it makes you think a lot, basically. At least for me, it makes me think a lot. So yeah. So, of course, episode 4, I told you guys, it's not my favorite episode out of the whole volume. But it is that one of those episodes that is like, I appreciated a lot of what they actually tried to do. As of now, we'll have a summary of my thoughts and feelings of episodes 1 to 4. It's a very standard, like, world building for episodes 1 and 2. Somewhere in 2, and then like at 3 we got up against the prince, and then like yeah, unfortunately the prince only lasts for 1 episode. I kind of wish we have at least maybe 2 episodes for that, but then again I could actually understand why, basically. As for episode 4, which is the current one, I do wish that we actually got at least 2 episodes for that one, definitely. One is basically everybody trying to, like, maybe the mist doesn't need to be like doesn't need to be like just them talking to each other, them currently to their past selves and their wants and desires from the past, basically, and wanted to be everything normal, or at least trying to be the one. I'll just say the one, you know. But I don't really mind this. What I would prefer though is that it would just have all these 4 characters on a journey by themselves, only lasting for 2 episodes. So we move from Yang, Blake, Weiss, and RWBY, basically having them to trek on this hallucination. And then at the 2nd episode, we can have this exclamation, this confronting with each other. There could be a fight if you guys wanted to, but it doesn't need to be a fight. we could just have them together, and then try to find, and then just have this like moment of like clarity and stuff like that. So yeah, Yang, Blake, and Weiss at the very end of the episode says they're all huntresses, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. As for Ruby, she doesn't know what she wants to be because she failed on what her goal was to be a huntress, to save everybody. So that actually makes the question, what were the goals for the other people? For Weiss, her first goal was to basically try to be a huntress, to live up to the family name and become like what her sister is, what Winter was, a commander and stuff like that, or at least a businesswoman. But now she wants to be her own person, and her own person is to be a huntress, than what she is doing now, to help other people, basically, to the best that she can. For Blake, is basically almost the same. And her intention, her goals were basically at least the same throughout. That Blake wants to bring unity between faunesses and humans, and not just try to be herself in the background. She will always fight for it, but then now she will basically always try to be more human and not be more animalistic like the White Fang were basically doing before. And that is why she was a huntress. She wants to bring unity to people, basically. That's kind of like very dumbed down, basically. It's like unity of people. As for Yang, this is the most tricky one, and I don't understand most about this. For Yang, I think her original deal of being a huntress, it was just like maybe just for fun. But now she knows that she can protect other people, I'm guessing you could technically say that she wants to protect people as well. So kind of similar to what Ruby is, but she constantly wants to be there for other people as well, and that's kind of what it means to be a huntress. She wants to be there for other people. Ruby, on the other hand, has bigger expectations, and because she is younger, she doesn't have that mental capacity that her other friends have, but technically you could argue that she does. But remember, she is 4 years younger than everybody else, so like, yeah, she's not really mentally ready for all this responsibility and these realities that she's facing. She always thought that it might just be a little fairy tale that she could actually go in and save the day time and time again. And while technically sometimes that can be true, majority of the time that is not true. Reality will face you, and that's about it. She cannot be the hero that she wants to be. And that's her original intention. She wants to be a hero that can save everybody, just like in the fairy tales, in the storybooks that she has read before. But reality struck, she cannot do it. She's almost dead. She almost got consumed by the hallucination, but then got saved by the cat, and then you already know that some final screening was just everybody. Yeah. So that's all my thoughts for like the first 4 episodes. And I'm saying this right now, episode 4 was basically where everything was a scratcher. And right now, we go here. Now there is a few problems, but I am going to explain those at the very end of this video. And this is going to be a long one, so please sit tight. And here it is, episode 5. So during episode 5, we just basically leave the herbalist's mushroom house. And we're into basically the mushroom forest again. Or mushroom land. And mushroom forest. I would say mushroom forest. There's nothing really much to talk about in this episode, at least this part. So I'm going to skip further ahead. But I think there is some significant story beats here as well. Mostly about RWBY, if I believe so. So most of this stuff is going to be about RWBY. I am going to might talk about this in a future episode if this gets a good reception, possibly. Different episode, a different video if this gets good like reception, or maybe not. I don't know. I might just do it for fun, but again, that. So let's skip forward just a tiny bit. We're basically now at the next section in the mushroom forest, which is to this plaza. This plaza is basically a big gathering of shops and stuff, basically. And yeah, they're gonna go here because the curious cat wants them to basically see if there's anything to help around here, like anything that can help them to get to the tree basically, or at the very least try to find something. We do get to see everybody trying to find what they actually need, well, to get the others back to normal. Basically, they had to find a person who can make the sundae to make them grow again, grow back to normal size, basically. That is basically both Blake, no, not both, but all the three, Blake, Yang, and Weiss, need to grow back, so they need to get the ice cream, the ingredients for it, and after that, they have to eat it to grow back to normal. Now, Ruby's trying to find her part of the ingredient, but then strange things are happening. Basically, later, everybody kind of disappears, and she basically, at this scene and further in, I'm not going to show you most of it because that would be spoilers, but I might show you guys maybe later in the video of who she's talking to. But technically, she meets the blacksmith. She founds and talks to the blacksmith. Basically, she finds this big sword. The sword that, you know, that was tossed away. I didn't say it was tossed away before, but remember, I did say, like, in episode possibly, I think, 2 or 3. I think it was episode 3, basically. The prince basically threw the sword away because it was green. But it's back here, basically. There is a moment between her and the blacksmith here, and it kind of goes a bit more like a, oh, what the hell's going on type of deal. You guys would have to watch it though, because that will be like major spoilers. Remember, again, to cut down some time, even though it's almost about an hour now. I am going to skip some more spoilers, but again, most of these are just spoilers. This is not really important as of now, but it will be important later. So, down the line I might talk more about it, basically. After talking to a sentient teapot for the last ingredient, we finally get the ice cream. Now all three of the girls have to eat the ice cream basically, and to make them grow. The first time they tried, they only grew a little bit, so they had to eat basically the majority of the ice cream together. However, during this, the entity came back, but with friends. Okay, now this is what the entity looks like in full body. I know technically I said with friends, but every single screenshot I try to do, there's barely any screenshots that actually show the entity more than once. But of course, just take my word for it, there's like more than one. And if you must know, they kind of do, it's kind of been already implied, if you watch from the previous few episodes, Neo did actually brutalize the beast. So at that point, she can also clone the beast as well, because that's actually inherent to her memory now. That's actually kind of a nice ability, and it kind of shows that she's more like Twice now, but you know, muted Twice. Kind of funny actually. Twice's like whole getup has no mouth, but then there's Neo. She has a mouth, but she can't talk. It's kind of like opposite, don't you think? A mysterious man has shown up to fight these beasts with the I feel like the jackalope. I think that's the name of this mystical creature. I don't remember the name. You know, the rabbit with antlers. I don't remember the exact name of that creature. Although, yeah, the Rusted Knight from the story is here and is trying to defend the people, well, as much as he can. Now, later on throughout the episode, he then realized that there should be only one of the entity. Now there's multiple, and yeah. So later after that, they had to run away, evacuate, basically. Everybody else kind of later further into this episode, we've seen that the aftermath, that they all escaped to refuge. Everybody kind of lost all their precious things. Some of them, their items that they sell, others, some loved ones. It's pretty sad. Maybe loved ones, or at least lost somebody during skirmish. It's pretty sad. I said it maybe in a, I might say it in a, you know, nonchalant tone, but you know, honestly, like, if you watch RWBY, it's kind of like typical. So I mean, like, I don't know, it's kind of normal. I guess for me, it's kind of normal because of everything like RWBY has been doing. Not the character, the show, but like, it's just a lot. Okay, here we go. And then we get to episode 6, because that's where we're gonna go through. Also, this is actually one of those episodes here. This is kind of surprising because here's the thing. This is the warning they gave out for this episode and the next episode and then the next episode. Basically, kind of 3 episodes. I think it's only 2 episodes. This one and the other one, and then possibly maybe the other one as well. But here we go. The warning is, it's our very first seizure warning. Yay! To be honest, I mean, like, considering that, here's the thing. To me personally, I don't get seizures from the flashing lights, but I know some people do. Technically speaking, I can see why, but at the same time, it's not that fast, so I don't know if this warning is really warranted yet. But then again, they put it in, so that's actually pretty good. There, the next episode says that it touches sensitive topics. Episode 7 says it touches about sensitive topics, so yay. Which is iffy at best. I mean, that could have been used like previous volume 8, but like, yeah. Then we get Jean's perspective. Yes, finally, we get Jean's perspective here. So, what happened here is that he woke up. Apparently, he was on the island first, this world first, before everybody else. It is a bit weird. Don't know why. He was the last one to fail, so makes sense maybe he go first. But then that means all the other, like RWBY and the others, when they fell, who knows? I mean, they all kind of fell at the same time, basically. So it's kind of iffy. I really don't understand how time works, and it just gets more confusing because later, we don't. So Jean was here first, so he got this time fruit from the time tree, and then the time fruit basically fast forward him through time. But then later he did destroy it, and now he's just kind of sitting here waiting, and he waited for so yeah, we don't know how long he was waiting for initially, but according to other people, he waited for 40 years. So right now, he is 40 years old, here with his armor rested and all that stuff. If you haven't noticed right now, Jean is just a rested knight. And yeah, he has a beard and a mustache. Or basically the typical facial hair of like those other people. Not like separate, they're like a full like connective tissue, like a connective facial hair, basically. This is kind of a good design, honestly. But does he look like the actor who plays Thor in the MCU? He looks like the actor who plays Thor, in all honesty. Also, we now know Weiss's preference. Yeah, Weiss thinks that Jean's attractive. And knowing more that Jean is basically a little over 40 right now, with facial hair, Weiss's preference, we could say that she likes older men. I don't know what's going up on for Rooster Teeth right now, but like, goddamn. It's it's funny. But then when you think about it, and then with all these info, it just gets weird, but also still funny. I just like it how this scene is like these two, the Blake and Yang knows what's up, but then RWBY's like, what the fuck's going on? We did get more of Jean's story, but then Jean basically kind of talks a bit more of what happened. Basically, he was actually the rested knight in the story. So what happened is this. The story, the fairy tale that everybody, RWBY and the others read as children, was real. Jean was the rested knight, so he was reliving that story with Alice. Alice is the mysterious girl that we saw earlier. And apparently, I'm just gonna say this right now, because this is really not important, but also it is, but it's not really important that they never really go on more about it. Alice has a brother, and that's about it. Jean says that Alice killed her brother because reasons, and she went back home, and the brother dead here. And then later we get to know the cat's side of the story, basically. And then he doesn't know what exactly happens, but he lied as well. So it's just a lot of lies actually now going back on. I found we actually kind of like, got away from this. Or am I actually thinking of Miraculous Ladybug about that? I really don't know. But then the storm is coming. And this storm is a little funky. So like they got separated, but like let's see. Yeah, Blake and Yang got separated from the others because the storm basically does this. It just sets them to this mysterious obstacle or some sort like that. Basically, right now they're in the land of mirrors, and they have to find the right mirror to go back home. Basically, as for Yang and Blake, they kind of got stuck in this whole thing. The bridge is not that complete. There's a platform in the middle. Their whole thing is to try to get to the middle. Here's the thing. The thing is that Jesus Christ. Well, I've been talking a lot. Okay. And Jesus Christ. Okay. Sorry. They basically have to tell each other things that they would never say to each other in public. That is the truth and nothing but the truth. The truth that they are hiding in their hearts because they cannot say it in public and all that stuff. This gets to the point where it is like, I don't know how to explain this. If you guys, here's the thing. I don't know how to explain this, honestly. This is like one thing I do not want to discuss about it because it could be its own video. But I'll just say this right now. At the very end of this, basically, the ship is real. Bumblebee is real. I'm actually pretty surprised that Rooster Teeth actually gone this far. Here's the thing. So, for me, I am a very big fan of the ship, honestly. Blake and Yang, I always kind of like, I ship them together, honestly. And I know a lot of the fandom does too. Although I didn't really buy into the ship until like volume 2. And that's like because people were like, oh, these are actually good stories for these two each other. Very wholesome. Some of them very wholesome. And then there was the other parts were like, okay, a bit weird. But then again, I could actually see it. This one is like, is never really explained. It's never really been stated that in the whole series that these two have feelings for each other. Blake was the closest of the two that had these feelings, but it's very, very easily can be swayed aside as like, oh, she's just behaving as a cat worried about its owner, or like, she's just a very worried friend from the earlier volumes. In this one, there's only one indication. However, that indication was like, oh, they're just going to be very close friends, and then the little hand swipe that she does to Yang's hand is just, that's something cats do. So like, what's going on here? And then in this episode, they actually kiss, and they actually did both say that I love you. Now, am I happy with the shipping canon? I am 80% happy. This is the reason why. This is the reason why I'm 80% happy about this. The reason why I am 80% happy about this ship is this. It is one of my favorite ships for Blake and Yang. And it's the one that makes the most sense. However, the execution is... Okay, the execution is actually okay. It's the build-up that doesn't make sense. It literally does not make any sense. All I could say is this. For me to be honest here, I usually take some ships, or at least like love plots, kind of seriously, because for one thing, I'm a romantic at heart. I kind of know some of the tropes for romance and stuff too. This falls in the trope of suddenly they're together. It is literally suddenly they're together, basically. Or like, oh, they actually secretly love each other this whole time, but it was never been expressed, you know. They were always so chummy as friends and always been like what friends would do too. So where was this going for? And honestly, there is no romantic interest from at least one other party. And that's the thing. However, the execution, I say, is good for what it is because of this. It may be a forced ship. However, the forcefulness makes sense. And this is, into my opinion, this is like the best, this is like maybe the best forced shipping that I have ever seen. This is like the best one, because here's the thing. If this was with no stakes involved, that if this was just a normal thing, that one day they just said like I love you with no other implications and just saying like I have these feelings for a long time and the stakes were super low, I would just not like this. But this is a very good execution, because the thing is, as I said again, this place wants these two to share their deepest truths to each other that they will never say in public. And that is the thing. And the execution of that is really good. Here's the other 10%, because that's just the 90%. Here's the other 10% that make it 100. The reason why that I do not think that this works is because of one simple reason, and that is Yang. Yang, besides in the trailers where she was a bit flirtatious at times and did have a relationship at one point, basically, throughout the whole series, she has no interest in romance or love throughout every single volume. Now, you might be wondering, oh, maybe it's just maybe behind the scenes, and that might be true. However, think of this. Yang is not the person at this point at volume 4 to have these romance feelings at this point, because she knows that she needs to get the job done, as in to help the other kingdoms, I guess. Do you call it the other kingdoms or like nations? I don't really remember, but like she's there to actually at least help and then finish the mission. Maybe possible that she might have these feelings bottled up the whole time and then just waiting for the right moment to let it all out. That would make sense. However, but Yang has never, I should not say no interest. She has never shown any interest to anybody, especially Blake. She only shows like interest of being friends to most people that she sees, or at the very least, to the people she sees as friendly, she becomes friends with them. That kind of, and the thing is, the way she treats Blake is the same way as everybody else, just as a friend and how what friends would do. Blake, on the other hand, has an excuse as that when she's worried, she might actually feel maybe a deeper connection because how much Yang actually supports Blake a lot of the time. And to be honest, their stories kind of actually intertwine a little bit, and that's how I feel. But yeah, this is, in short, even though I disagree with how Rooster Teeth executed this with their build-up, the execution, like the base on execution in this episode is the best I have ever seen for this type of trope, the Force trope. And this is one of my favorite ships, and maybe one of my number one favorite ships of all time for RWBY. I actually am very happy that this happened. I just don't agree with this because of the execution, and because if everything was implied about these two from the beginning of this volume, I really do wish that there was more deeply involved in volume 8. And no, that truck scene does not count because they were on a mission and Blake was just being worried and Yang was just okay. I think it's self-explanatory for that. But like, again, I'm happy that this is happening. It's just that I kind of wish there was a bit more, and I do wish that this wasn't a forced trope. But for what it is, the force trope, Rooster Teeth finally actually made it work where everywhere else didn't work. And may I remind you, anything with the force trope has always been explained away by time skip, because that's like the most logical thing. And yes, time skips is the most logical thing for the force ship arc, the type. But for this one, not using that, while it's not my preferred way, this is like one of the best executed ones if we need these two to be in a relationship on the spot. This is one of the best ones. Not just like, oh, we just have to do it because we can, you know, not like that. And again, even though there might be implications for this two being a thing in the past of the series, in all honesty, the most recent I can think of is literally just in Volume 8. And that wasn't really a build-up part for this moment. It was literally just a mission and then Blake being overprotective. That was the main thing. It was not a ship at all. It's not a ship thing at all. But like, it is what it is. And hey, I might be complaining about the build-up for it, but I am not complaining at the execution half of the time. But I am not blaming this ship to happen. I always wanted this ship to happen, but to me, it might be a bit too soon. And whoever's watching this, whoever watched this at this point and then watched for future episodes later, we got maybe one of the most like equivalent exchanges that we have because of this. So here we go. So everybody escaped the storm, but these two were kissing for like who knows how long. I'm surprised they actually just kissed. I didn't think I was surprised they just kissed. I thought they might go a bit more further than that, but you know. But then again, it's for the young. It's sometimes for the not so older audience, so like maybe it makes sense. But like yeah, they were just there, and then we have Jean's reaction. Jean was not surprised at all. He's just like, here's the thing. The running joke about this, I'm happy that the ship is canon. I am not exactly happy of how it is now how early it is presented. And the build up for it was not that great, but I'm just happy that the ship is there. The execution was 80% perfect. I would just say 90% perfect if it weren't for being a force type of thing. You know, not a force trope, but you know. But Jean really actually is just the face of everybody in the community, including myself. It was bound to happen sooner or later. And the thing is, I get the feeling that for Rooster Teeth in the RWBY section, they listen to their fans kind of closely to how the Sonic fan base is to Sega. And it is kind of similar to that. It is bound to happen. I have a lot of stuff to say about this ship and then the history behind it as well, for Blake specifically, but yeah, this is Jean. He's just meh about it. It's bound to happen. There's no reaction. Everybody basically is like, there's no real reaction. Well, what does RWBY think about this? RWBY doesn't even think about this in any way. It was just a weird thing. RWBY is really in her own mind space at this point that she doesn't really care. I'll just say that much. As for Weiss basically had the same reaction as Jean. It's finally time they did it. So basically now we're back at Jean's cottage, where he rests, and everybody's there basically now resting for the next day. Jean needs to go back to the town that he's basically protecting at this point, but they need to rest. At this point in time, Jean basically has one thing for RWBY. Jean brung out Crescent Rose for RWBY, Now everybody basically is happy that RWBY now gets her weapon. But there is the sad moment here. RWBY is actually having second thoughts of actually grabbing her own weapon at this point. She is literally deep there, and I think that hallucination really messed her up, honestly. So yeah, she actually is now second guessing, like she doesn't want the weapon anymore. But they kind of convince her to at least keep it and use it at this point because they need to go back home and then she might need it to defend herself. RWBY feels like she wants all this to be over. And not that way. Not yet. But it is basically much there, and RWBY really is not in the mood to fight at this point. We have this is the final scene here, the final screenshot before the credits. Yeah, she's just sad that she is still needed to be in this situation. Kind of forced at this point. And that is it for episode 7. So we have 3 episodes left, and may I remind you that this whole volume is only 10 episodes long. So yeah. Before we continue on with the video, I'd just like to say that at this point, this is my second time recording. We only have 4 episodes left, so thank you all for watching from now, well, till now. So yeah. And back then, I just realized that that was episode 6, not 7. Well, this is going to be review for episode 7 to 10, so yeah. This might be a bit more quicker, because even though there's a lot of stuff to talk about, I think it's already self-explanatory if you watch the series. If you haven't already, please, if you haven't watched the series yet, or this volume yet, or at least you're at this part and you didn't watch 7 to 10, go watch it now. Other than that, let's begin. And basically we start off with this. Well, not this particular, not that particularly, but I mean every episode starts with that. On starting off, so 7 to 9, or 7 to 9, I believe, have the warning still. So some distressing stuff, and I mean pretty much distressing, to say the least. Distressing to the point where the characters are kind of contradicting through what happened to the series. It makes sense, but still doesn't feel right, considering how they kind of treated themselves from previous volumes, but hey, it is what it is. So basically, we left off from the cottage. It's morning, they're all gonna wake up. And continuing the scene, RWBY's the only person who did not sleep throughout the whole day, the whole night, I should say. Most likely, she is just still distressed about having her weapon back and still wondering if she still wants to continue on with the mission or not, and going back to Remnant. We actually meet up with the village where Jean wants to go to, and yeah, it's inhabited with these origami stars. These origami stars, I should say, are a little quirky. They're pretty much a little quirky during the day and night, but what they do is kind of distressing, because these guys are technically like servant type of people, but they're pretty much suicidal, I should say. Their actions, they don't have much common sense, so Jean was here to basically protect them from, dying. Of course, we later learn that these guys kind of want to die. The reason why is because they believe they will be reincarnated to something more wonderful, to say the least. At least that's how the world is. So that's what they're trying to do. And they have a habit of burning the town, and Jean is basically protecting them. You think it's nice, but later on you'll see. I might actually skip some of the parts that relates to these guys because it's kind of a little bit self-explanatory. Either way, let's keep going. They're basically now making a plan to search for the tree at this point. while some people are going to stay at the town, or the village, you would say. Jean and somebody else will go go outside and search for an exit. Now, Jean was trying to do this as much as he can before, returning back to put out the fires that the people are making and burning down, of course. And he never had time, so this is basically the perfect chance to basically, use his friends to basically do his job, and then he can go out and search for the place. Now, you think he would have to get in some training, but no, not really. At this point, Jean is pretty much really selfish at this point. Then again, remember, he's been trapped here for possibly 40 years, 39 technically, if you don't count the year right now. But yeah, 40 years, he might be a bit more selfish, of course, and it makes sense that he would be thinking like this. It's not exactly the Jean we know, but hey, it is what it is. We do get a story on how Jean came here, and I believe that we get more of Jean's story, and then how he also got here. I think I said that already. And then the people just kind of welcomed him in, and just took care of him. That's all you need to know. The Jabberwocky, I will say, I'll just call it the Jabberwocky or something. I don't know, the creature, the entity, whatever his name is. I really just forgot. But at this point in time, Neo is on the offensive again, and they will know later that this is Neo as her apparition, or not apparition, her clone, which she turned into, and then it just basically is her actual clone. Basically just was there taunting them this whole time. Now this episode, I don't have much to speak of until the end, basically. That's kind of all you need to know here. That this episode is can be explained in 3 sentences and then a kind of a paragraph at the end for what just happened. The only thing about this episode that's interesting is literally just the end. And here we are. This is basically for everything what happens now. Weiss and the others, the rest of Team RWBY, of course, just tell RWBY that we have to go and, stop Neo, or, go to try and exit for the tree. Go to the tree for the exit. They don't know exactly what to do until they ask RWBY. RWBY doesn't really know, and nor does she actually cares. At this point, she just feels she gives up, because everywhere they go, destruction happens. It's kind of a habit. Kind of how every time when they leave get to a place, and when they leave, when they leave, it's always in distraught. Every place, even in ever after, and that is kind of a little disappointed. Jean over here, at this point in time, they actually missed their technicality. Now, Jean doesn't really care on what's happening to the rest of the team and their priority. Jean's priority is not actually, at this point, not really going to search for an exit, because he has a duty to protect the people. And the people kind of just died because the dam of the water just kind of flooded the whole village because of the distraction that Neo actually, gave them. It was not intentional. It's technically nature's fault, if you really must know. But Jean basically later puts the blame on RWBY, because, and he says that RWBY is pretty selfish, because it's always about her and stuff like that. Well, to be honest, there's 2 things that contradicts Jean's reasoning. One, his own character contradicts this fact. He did say that his excuse is that he's been here for so long, so he might have thought this is basically all the stress that was built up. But remember, Jean at this point does worry about his friends. They don't know where they're gonna go, and he is trying to go and find an exit. But the people take care of him. He was living a pretty good life as a hero, and he was basically getting recognition. So this was not really stress. It really was just his ego actually getting the better of him. And then when he realized that the thing that's supporting his ego is gone, he just lashes out. Now that contradicts with Jean's previous personality, I would say. While he does want to be a hero, he just wants to impress others, and he does do that. However, he doesn't go to the point. Well, he does impress others. He does technically kind of just flaunts it around, but he never actually goes full scale, which is something that Jean always does. He knows that he's not as good as the others, but so that he knows his place, but he does want to get better. At this point, John is kind of the opposite, if you know what I mean. Hopefully you know what I mean. Because John right here, we don't know what actually his personality is during the 40 years. We don't know what changed. But because of the limited info we got and his perspective of the story, we thought he might be the same, but this is actually a big contradiction, most likely just to get the plot rolling. At this point, Ruby also is, let me find a screenshot here. After hearing the words from Jean, Ruby was pretty much just disappointed. She's not angry, she's just sad, but she's also upset with Jean because she knows that Jean is not really like this. So knowing that he kind of just lashed out on her and just saying that this is all her fault just to reaffirm that what she's thinking, yeah, it's just really bad, honestly. I mean, it is something to move the plot forward, and this is one thing I actually kind of realized ever since Volume 8 and also 7, starting with 7 possibly, that Volume 7, nobody really was talking to Ruby like, are you okay? It's mostly always just, what do we do, Ruby? You know, was never, how is Ruby doing? And that's kind of upsetting. Now, the only person I would say is Yang. Yang does actually ask Ruby about this, but she always gives out the answer, no, I'm fine, or, you know, something else like that. But given the time that Volume 9 is, and seeing how deep Ruby is going through this, Yang does ask one more time, but never again. She never actually digs even further, which is kind of strange because she digs further into Blake's problem and trying to fix it, or at least help her fix the problem or get over it. Now for Ruby, it's a whole different story. Now considering this, that Ruby is basically Yang's family member, and it is kind of weird that Yang prioritizes Blake's insecurities rather than Ruby's, which is something that I don't know why the writers just wanted to do. Mostly it might be ship bait, who knows. But yeah, because all of this, nobody really cares about Ruby, it makes sense that Ruby would actually crack here. Now after this point in time, and after Jean's big character retcon, basically right here, but don't worry, Jean comes back to normal in the next episode, so don't worry about that. But either way, yeah, Ruby just kind of flies off. Flies off? Yeah, flies off. Don't, if you kind of forgot Ruby's semblance, remember she can fly. If she gets enough speed with the rose petals, I think. I don't know how her semblance works, but I know it's not the speed semblance, it's just a something else semblance, and she can fly. Just bear with me with it. So that's kind of where the episode ends, and I can already tell you what happens next in the other episode. Ruby basically, you know, finds herself in the forest, just kind of soaking in her own shallow, something in shadow, basically. Then, okay, the mouse, forgot the name. I really forgot her name. I don't want to forget the mouse's name. She wasn't important. She's technically not exactly an important character, but she is basically, in a certain way, she's basically like the life support for Ruby, at least for like Ruby's consciousness or something like that, or almost just companion at the very least. I think companion. I might be looking too deep on this mouse, but either way, Ruby tells her to go away. The mouse doesn't want to leave, but she insists, and the mouse kind of does leave, basically. Ruby after this finds a house which she heard noises from, and she's going to investigate it, and the house looks like so we technically have this transition scene. I think I remember we don't see the house, but it might be just be for one frame or at least 1 second, which is kind of sad. But yeah, we have this very good transition scene, and we can see Ruby's descent into darkness. Now, not the darkness as she's gonna be evil, the darkness of, well, the theme of this one is depression. Get ready for some depression in a fantasy, you know? Just like the Rooster Teeth's like explanation of like depression, or at least stress that can lead to depression, that can lead to, well, honestly, I will just save that for the end. Ruby's mysteriously got inside the house, and what she sees is something that kind of surprised her. She's basically surprised to see Neil, and then there's Torchwood. Now there's a painting. Now Torchwood actually talks in the painting. It's kind of like that Discord thing, you know? And to be honest, I get the feeling this Ever After might be something similar to Discord's Dimension, because to be honest, the wacky chaotic stuff actually always happens here. So I will not be surprised if this is actually related into Discord's Dimension, you know, from My Little Pony. But you know, it is what it is, my headcanon. You know, I just want to say, because to be honest, this world is a bit too much like Discord. It's too much chaos in on, or you know, I can't speak. Oh boy, I do not want to really talk about what just happened at the end, but like I'll have to because it's a review, so here we go. RWBY turns around, and she hears other voices, and those voices are the people who died. Now, this is pretty interesting. Like, you might be wondering, why is these people here? I'll just tell you right now, it's really just spoilers, but again, I told you in the midway of this video, yeah. These are just Neil's apparitions, or Neil's clones. And remember, she's like twice from My Hero. She can actually clone herself to be another person if she really chooses to, and mimic their voice in that way. Here we got Penny, Pyrrha, Lionheart, Clover, Ironwood, and Osmond. Now, all these have something in common. They died. The only person that doesn't make sense here is Clover. RWBY doesn't know that Clover died, so what happened there? Maybe Rooster Teeth just needs someone to fill in the space, you know. It cannot be Torchwood, because later in you'll see Torchwood basically come out. And then there's Neil, who came out later. And now this tea right here is the tea from the leaves of the tree. And we already know what kind of happens during that time, but it's always implied that drinking the tea leaves or basically makes you go into a state of death and rebirth, basically. And you might be knowing where this is technically going, but essentially, while the show says it's just only for reincarnation, you know what happens when you need to do, you know what you need to do for reincarnation? I think so, you know. So here we go. We have Torchwood's epic speech, which is not really Torchwood, it's Torchwood Neo's epic speech, honestly. And if you really want me, yeah, I cannot really do it justice, so go and listen to it. To be honest, what am I kidding? It's not really that groundbreaking, but it is something really interesting, but not interesting for me enough, not interesting enough for me to actually explain. It's best if you hear from Torchwood himself, but I cannot do that because Rooster Teeth would actually blaspheme me. So, you know, kind of strike this video down. Now, all the clones staring at RWBY is kind of creepy, to be honest, but let's keep moving. After this, we do get to a fight scene, but before we get to that, and discuss what happens during the fight scene, there's only one other scene I want to say. And technically, this kind of gives a good point that I wish the series did, but at least the characters are self-aware that they are in the wrong. Everybody realized that they never really paid attention to RWBY. RWBY, Sean, most likely everybody who they came with, or at least met with, never asks RWBY, is she really okay? And while Yang does, nobody basically pushes on further. Never let RWBY, because the thing is that since RWBY is team leader and it makes sense, all decision making goes to the leader. But however, I do believe that a leader doesn't really need to make all decisions for themselves. At this point, I don't think the rest of the team, especially Jean, I don't think they knew that they need to make their own decisions. Yes, they did make their own decisions before, but when they're always in a team, it's always RWBY's thing, and there's always pressure on RWBY, and if RWBY doesn't do it, she fails. They don't fail, she mostly fails, and that's about it. Now, everybody here, they did say, basically in context, that they actually never gave RWBY any comfort. They never gave RWBY any support. They all were always just there, just doing their own thing, and when the time comes they always ask RWBY. Now you might be saying, well, they do support in battle. That's not what I meant. Mentally, they never did. Guess who in the team gets the most mental support? It is basically Blake and Weiss. Mostly Blake, but technically a bit of Weiss. And to be honest, it's mostly from Yang. Yang's the only person who actually keeps up with the support, but she never even supports RWBY. RWBY's the only person, and to be honest, It kind of makes sense because during the stress time and then like, all that stuff. But you think family comes first? And you think they know that Ruby is the youngest out of all of them? Remember, Ruby is still 4 years younger than everyone on her team. They do treat her as an equal, but that might also be gone a little too far, I think that might be one of the reasons why they never really pay attention to her that much. Because, they think, oh, she could handle it herself. She's mature enough. She's still a little kid. That's all I gotta say. And of course, Jean said it's also his fault. He shouldn't snap out and, all that stuff. Don't worry. Yeah, Jean's back. The old Jean's back. Good for you, Jean. That's all I'm gonna say. Now we go back to the fight. This is really just the only thing I want to say, because this is really just the only thing that this scene is worth for. That the characters are self-aware. Now, the context that I did give you for this scene may not line up one-to-one, but I can assure you is about 80%. There is some undertone that the creators do try to waver out, but this is really just the main. This is really just the main meaning. They never the meta part of this is they never actually pay attention to Ruby. Honestly, oh boy. As you can see, Ruby is basically having trouble. She's fighting everybody, And of course, the clones. Neo plays as the clones, and she's trying to guilt trip her, and they do. And you know what happens? Neo basically does a very realistic swap, honestly. I don't know if this is technically like an upgrade, because I don't think Twice ever did in My Hero. But yeah, first, what's to say, that the Pyrrha clone turned to an Oscar clone, and that Oscar kind of got slashed, and then he bled out. Now, blood's not really a uncommon thing in RWBY, but Jesus Christ, I didn't know a clone can bleed. I don't know if I'm misremembering, but honestly, yeah, I didn't take a screenshot of that because I might get demonetized for that. But yeah, I just don't know. It's just kind of weird, but it is kind of shocking. All this whole thing is shocking, and you can see Ruby's act. And this technically, even though Ruby got an upper hand soon, it's until like the older clones, like the clones that are the adults, actually gave out a better dishing of damage, basically. And then we have Osmond. And then there's Osmond just kind of beating the shit out of Ruby. You never might see from an old man, but to be honest, I know it's not supposed to be a funny thing, but I can only think of after this scene, after the shock of after this episode. I know I'm redundant of those words, but I can only imagine that Dumbledore beating up the shit out of Harry and just laughing maniacally. I don't know why I think about that, but that's kind of how I feel. And then again, Ruby does have that feel of Harry Potter inside of it, so like I don't know, honestly. I don't know what Rooster Teeth was on, but Jesus Christ, that's just really dark. And then again, they didn't give us a warning, so there's that. So the cat came in to save her, or is he? Guess what? The plot twist is that the cat is evil. Yeah, he might actually distract Neo out for a bit to not let her drink the tea, but the thing is that the cat is going to take over her body. So he sinks his paws into her chest and basically starts to rip something out. I don't know, but yeah. So basically his plan is to escape ever after so he could go to the real world, because he believed that he wants to, because if he knows a person that's fit, suitable for his vessel, that he could, at least with their body, with the mind that they want to go back home, he can take that, and so he can go back, so he can go with them, so they can go, home and stuff like that. So he can go to the real world and basically be a curious cat. That's all. It's kind of his selfish goal, honestly. He's not truly evil, but then again, his style is basically evil. So he's gonna body snatch her, like Ginyu style, but except unlike Ginyu style, or at least Goku Black style, they don't swap bodies. He's just going to possess her whole. So more like he's like a Danny Phantom if he was a cat and evil, basically. But don't worry, because this has failed, because Neo steps in and basically saves Ruby? No, not actually, because she's basically beat up the cat, so she can actually give Ruby the tea. And then the tea, later you'll see, it's kind of just there. And also, let's just say, the mouse does come back here, because the cat attacked Neil, I guess. I don't remember what's the sequence because it's all happening too fast. So yeah, we got a scene right here. So basically, Neil stepped on the mouse. The mouse tells Ruby to wake up. Ruby turned over to the mouse, asking why she's here. Neil steps on the mouse. Ruby distraught. Now she is in full depression mode, or at the rate, she's in full shock mode and depressed, basically, in like the lowest, deepest depression you can ever think of. A person who is just silent and doesn't know what to do next. And then, you know, her friends actually came in and see Ruby with the tea of the color of the tree. Yang's the first person. Huh. I wonder why. As I said, Yang is the first person to ask Ruby what is she doing, basically in context. And you know what, this is a good reflection scene. Ruby drinks the tea, and technically she's going to be ready for reincarnation, which means that Ruby in this episode basically Sudoku'd herself. That's right, Ruby committed suicide. And suicide was not badass. So, yeah, after this, after drinking, the ground's gaping hole just swallowed Ruby whole, basically. And that's the end of RWBY. RWBY committed suicide, everybody. Go claps all around. We got the ship that we always wanted, we got the ship that we always wanted. That is basically forced. And in return for equal equivalent exchange, RWBY kills herself. Way to go, everybody. Way to go. Way to make the Rooster Teeth command with our demands, you know. Oh god, I hate myself saying that. We did go back to Neil, and let's just say that once her mission is complete, let's just say there's now there's just a very big crisis. She doesn't know what to do. Her crisis is what her next goal is supposed to be. Nothing. She's basically now nothing. She killed Ruby already. There's nothing to go back to. Torchwood's dead. She's trapped here technically because she doesn't want to leave in the first place. And yeah. And what's the darkest thing about this is that Neil is also now slipping into that depression stage as well. To the point of where her clone of Torchwood, and remember, this Torchwood clone is also herself, so she's talking to herself here, saying that after killing Ruby, is that really all you want to do? You're kind of stupid if you think that's all you want to do, but to be honest, the actual Neil doesn't know what to do. But then guess what? So the strangest thing happened, and I don't know why Rooster Teeth really wanted to do this, because this kind of seems like almost like a parody thing, but we now see how the cat actually body snatches people. Neil's just here paralyzed, basically. The cat discussed his plans, and since Ruby's not here, he does know one other person that's also capable, the one that her mind is broken. Guess who that is? So he's gonna go after Neil. John's the only person trying to stop the cat. Why is John the only one trying to stop the cat? The cat does change color, which is kind of interesting. Then he looks into Neil's soulless eyes. But then Neil, at this point, her face, I cannot show you the other one because even a second of this clip will basically get the whole thing copyrighted. But hey, here's the thing. After this, Neil, first time in a while actually, feels fear, right? That her life is going to be taken away for the second time. Technically, the first time. Technically, this is the first time that Neil's life is taken away if you don't count the books, which I don't count the books as canon because they retcon almost everything in the series. But okay, after this, Neil is afraid for her life. The cat basically just says, "Oh, your body is mine." And instead of doing a awesome technique, he goes in. He goes in, and the technique is literally just vor. Yes, we got vor, and we got this face. Now Rooster Teeth calls this deep throating. Keep that in mind. The staff of Rooster Teeth really call this deep throating. I don't know why. But yes, the cat's way to basically get in is to deep throat first and then have the person vor him. I don't know why. I don't know why this is a thing. But this face, I don't know. This is like a memeable face, but for maybe the older audience. Also, you can see that this whole thing is transparent. You can see that, right? Look at the textures of the cat. Don't look at the eyes. Look at the texture of the cat, the diamonds. Can you see the grid? This whole thing, I don't think they removed the grid design. This is literally just a transparent JPEG of the cat going, and then you have Neil's face. It's a little funny, disturbing. I don't want to say the other word because it's not, but like, I don't know what's Rooster Teeth on. So remember guys, equivalent exchange. Since we got Ruby dead, we also got one more gift. We can see Neil's deep throat face. I don't know why this is a thing, but it's a question. Excuse me for a bit. I think I got a little too excited there. Wait. John was too late. He was about to pull the cat's tail. Stop it. I should have said stop it. We also get to finally hear Neil's voice. Isn't that amazing? We get to know Neil's voice. Now granted, we hear the cat's voice too. So the voice thing is that we hear Neil's actual voice and the cat's voice. Think of it as Vegeta or Gogeta or Gotenks from Dragon Ball. The fusion thing, you know? To technically fuse. What kind of technique is that? I don't know. What kind of technique is this? Leave a comment down below if you're actually this far. But either way, after this, Neil, the cat, talks. Cat Neil, Curious Neil, Neil Cat, Neon Cat, I don't know. And we end off with this. Well, there's more later, but we end off with this. And this is the birth of the sexy Twitter woman. And I'm not lying, honestly. When a lot of people saw this, and then we have the episodes coming after with this character, let's just say this is technically the birth of sexy cat, the sexy Twitter, sexy Tumblr, sexy Tumblr woman. I don't know. I can't talk. I'm just kind of I'm still finding this hilarious, honestly. And to be honest, I don't know. But actually, the cat mouse actually pretty cute. And this is the birth of a lot of werewolf fans. Episode 9. We're almost there. And I gotta say, this episode is such a cop-out. Okay? This episode is such a cop-out. I cannot go on with this. If this volume was just a tiny bit longer, like make it 15 episodes, not 10. But if this was 15 episodes originally in volume 9, this would be a huge cop-out. But not really, because this is 10 episodes. But this still feels like a cop-out. This feels like a cop-out. Okay. I'm not okay. Okay, you know what? You know what? Okay. Here's the thing. Okay. I'm just gonna say this before I talk. I'm gonna skip the first half because, first quarter, technically speaking. Well, not all of it, but like I'll just give out a rush explanation. But this is just like the most useless episode. Honestly, it's just that the pacing is like the thing is that they have 2 plot lines and they rushed both so fast. I don't know why. It could be the limited episodes that they have. 10 episodes for a volume. What are you kidding me? But 15 might be good. 15 would be better so they can flesh out more of the story, or at least let this linger. But they did not linger the death of Ruby. They didn't linger. They didn't let the death of Ruby cook. They didn't let it cook. They just kind of threw it in and then serve it on a plate, basically, as a finished product. I don't know why. And then there's the cat meal, and a cat meal, I mean, like, could have made her, like, maybe another encounter, but this time again before they go to the tree. But they kind of rushed to the tree already. Okay, that's my rant over. Now time for the actual episode. I will also apologize for any subtext you see, like the subtitle you see here. Any subtitles you see, it's in this episode technically translated into a different language, at least for the subtitles. I don't know why. This is technically when I tried to get the episode. This is the episode I got, so I don't know why. But I did see this in English, so yeah. I'm just letting you know. We finally get story of Summer Rose, people. Let's go. More summer. Oh boy. And I can't believe my theory was right. Now, if you haven't noticed my theory on, like, Summer Rose's disappearance, this is like so long ago. It was like 5 years ago I made a theory on why she actually left. I cannot remember the specifics of my theory. What I did say is that she left with Raven, but she never came back after that. She might have been killed by Salem, on the context of basically what Raven told us from, what volume was it? 4? No, it's not 4. 4 is like, it's either volume 5 or 6. I know it's 6. Maybe, I think, no, it is 6. It is 6. Because 7 is when they get to Atlas. Yeah. So around volume 6, we got some answers from Raven and then more context of that. And then, that's my theory, is that she basically never returned. She got killed by Raven because she was on a mission with Raven. No, she got killed by, Summer killed by Salem because she was with Raven, and then, yeah, okay, that was the theory. That was my theory. And I was technically right. Well, we never saw the death or how Summer died, but I was right about her leaving with Raven at the very end and never come back. And the context of this, she never came back. Now, here's the thing, the context of this scene, however, is that she is reading the story, and we actually see, little Yang and little Ruby. They're just so adorable. But more context, Summer says her final farewells technically, and then gone with Raven. And banter between them basically, because I cannot show this. I did try it once just to test, and I got copyright claim for it. This would actually remove the whole video, so I'm not going to show you guys that. But yeah, they basically says that you're gonna leave. Raven tells Summer that this is not like you, but then Summer's like, well, could say the same to you. You left the family a while back, and of course Raven didn't think this too likely, but she was a bit sad that was true. So you know what? They had to do the mission, and Summer is very assertive, which is surprising because she convinced Raven pretty fast. Or at the very least, this Raven changed her mind. I don't know how, but that's kind of weird. But yeah, that's all we got for Summer. Summer only lasts for like 2 minutes, which is enough for me because this is a flashback. We head back to the flooded village and we see a star-shaped rock, and it's alive. And they say that they're here to fix the remains of this broken place and make it their new home and make it stronger. And if you guys haven't noticed yet, these guys are the crystals. Basically, these crystals are the actual paper origamis. What a plot twist. And then later after this, Jean has a mind blast, like, I guess being a hero makes them suffer. Rooster Teeth, I don't know what your message is with this, but here's the thing. Sometimes, here's the thing. I hope Jean doesn't really go to this whole thing, but to be honest, I think the rest of Weiss specifically knows what just actually happens. Nature has to let Ted take his course. Nature has to take course. Nature has to basically do its thing. Things have to die at some point, but sometimes they can come back. So the lesson is that basically it's nature. Death is normal. But something new can take its place, which is something like it's a double meaning. It's like a positive and negative, a double-edged sword. Like, yes, that's a good lesson. Things die. It's a natural thing. However, saying that something replaces that is just something like, oh, so much. So it's like saying like your life doesn't matter. It's like, what's the point, Wise? What the hell? He's like, but Jean is on this other side. I'm hoping he's not, but like it feels like he's just like, I guess being trying to protect these guys is not a good thing. So I should just let them die. That seems about right. You know, I hope it's not. Okay, I hope it's not really the case because that'd just be very weird. But yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I give up on thinking at this point because I get the message. It's a good message, but also it's also a bad message, and I don't think Jean actually knows the true complications here. But he does now realize that his ego was taking the better of him. Let's just stop it there because I'm going to basically get off rails and maybe interpret this wrong even further. But please, you can interpret this whatever you want. I might be wrong, I might be totally wrong, but that's how I got it, basically. Life, specifically in Ever After, death has to happen in order for new things to grow. It's just the circle of life, basically. That's the lesson. Yeah, okay, that's the lesson. The circle of life. Something that Lion King already told us about. Well, technically, in a not a very good way, but technically, it's still the same. So the crystals fixed the town. That's all you need to know. And then they prayed to their Lord and Savior. Wait, let me find another screenshot. The giant crystal. That's right, they made a giant crystal in the middle of their new town, and then they worship it. That's all you need to know. So now they realize that because of this, they have an epiphany, or at least a thought, basically. What if, and this, I'm going to abridge it, okay? I'm going to abridge this right now. So it's basically this. What if we think that we want to get to the tree? Right? That's technically it. But the actual context, okay, this is the actual now good context reason. That's my abridged version. Now this is this. We understand how life works in Ever After. But we really want to get home, basically. Right? I think that's how it's been explained. It's more like, what, like, maybe we should get the tree come to us. And then the way to get the tree to them is by, and I'm not kidding, is to know what they just learned. Things have to die in this world, but they can reincarnate to be something better, basically. And they have to live with that fact that you can't really stop everything. You always protect them no matter what. You have to let them go. This is something, I don't know what they're trying to input. I don't know what Rooster Teeth tried to implement here, but Jesus Christ, this is getting a little bit too philosophical for my taste. Okay, so I kid you not, they got the tree, right? The tree teleports them to the tree. So the tree itself teleports them to itself because they now know the true meaning of what they need to learn. Jean needs to learn, and also everybody, all of these four need to learn that sometimes you have to let something go, right? You have to let something go so they can be better. Which, to be honest, makes sense for Jean. It doesn't really make sense for the rest. Because they let Ruby go to do what she needs to do. But then Ruby got depressed and then, she just died. She committed Sudoku, So, like, yeah, it's a mixed feeling. I don't know why. But hey, the volume's about to be over. We got to get them home somehow, Jesus Christ. So we get into the tree, and we see that some of these tree bark, some of the little trees here, they look like people. And then they found Ruby. Now here's the thing. They specifically, after they know what they learned, right? They want to see Ruby because they really want her back. So the tree let them see Ruby. That's why that's why the tree teleports them very close and why the search was not really long. To be honest, I feel like the search would have been much more longer if they actually got more episodes, but you know what? It's Rooster Teeth. What do I care? So yeah, and of course, Yang being a big sister. Finally, Yang! I don't know why it took you so long, but at least now she's actually trying to save her sister. But then Zhang's like, I don't think you can, and the reason why is because, well, he kind of also knew about the tree because he was technically seeing. He did see some things like this before, at least in context. That he says that it might be best that the only person that can save Ruby is Ruby herself, because she's the one who made this choice, and she has to basically choose to reincarnate as somebody is to reincarnate, basically, right? And we do see we do see the example of this. If you remember, there was the potion master. The potion master. Sorry, the OBS is being a bit funky right now. So we got this, and then we see that the man, the is it the witch? I don't know. I forgot what I call him. I don't know his actual title. Is it either the witch doctor or the herbalist? Oh, it's the herbalist. Yeah. No, I'm okay. I got it. It's the herbalist, and he turns into a butterfly. I'm not joking. He actually turned into a butterfly, and then he flies off, possibly returning to his place. Now, because of this, they get the feeling that Ruby might actually turn into someone different and will not be the Ruby that they know. And that might be just one of the sad truths, you know? So they cannot really do anything for Ruby. It's her choice. So what they decide to do is find the door to get out, or at least try to find a way to get out of here. The door to get out of here. We go into Ruby's perspective. She is now in the state of limbo, right? So this is in the state of limbo, and she does talk to the blacksmith, and we get to know later in episode 10, I'm just gonna say right now, that the blacksmith is basically the tree itself, the entity of the tree, right? The tree basically welcomes Ruby, and says like it took you long enough, right? Because the tree kind of knew that Ruby would be in this place sooner or later. Now, this is the place where I'll put this in context. Ruby right now is in a state of limbo. She did die, right? She did die. So this is the choice she has now. Either that she can choose to be one with the tree, die permanently, or she can reincarnate as anything she wants. Anything she wants to be, she can, as long as she chooses the reincarnation route. And then through this whole episode, we go back and forth, but through this whole episode, we get Ruby's perspective and of things, basically. She does want to technically choose the path of resurrection, or at least reincarnation, but she doesn't know, she doesn't know. I'm sorry for my words. I cannot speak now. She's in the state of like, do I want to be myself, or should I be someone better? Somebody that I wish that I was, you know? And that's kind of her whole epiphany. And then the tree and her just kind of talk it out. If you want to see this whole scene, you might want to watch the episode. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Because it's basically just that. Ruby's whole thing throughout all this, when the others are basically in a fight, yes, technically, or at least getting ready for a fight, Ruby gets this epiphany and basically kind of thinks about this. And this kind of transfers to the last episode as well. So yeah, that's kind of like half of the other episode gone. So like, yeah. Here we go. Continuing. So they hear some noise. They go here. They saw the doors and the light at the end. The light of the door. That's their way home. But what they hear was Neil. Yeah, Cat Neil, Curious Neil. We'll just call that Curious Neil. Curious, Curious Neil. I don't know why that sounds familiar and funny at the same time. But Curious Neil's trying to get through the door, but the cat cannot get through the door, and he doesn't know why. Basically, after confronting after confronting with the others, they all say that, well, Jean says like, well, you can't go in because Neo doesn't want to go back home. The cat's like, oh, pooey, you know. I'm just funny how like it shows the same pose as the cat, but it's in Neo's body. I don't know why I think the animators got fun with this. I don't know why, you know. But yeah, it's just a funny scene. Not that funny, but it makes sense. Also, a very dark reconciling that, like a dark thing that, you know, that Neo doesn't want to go back because she has, in more context, we all know that Neo has nothing left in the actual world. She would rather stay here, you know. So I cannot show you the story time for obvious reasons. But story time with Curious Neo, right? The Curious Cat basically says that the true reason why, the real truth on what happened to Alice and her brother. Guess what? The brother wanted to go back home, and he did. Alice, on the other hand, Alice didn't want to leave because she wants to stay in Ever After and fix everything, then go back home. But you know what the Curious Cat did? He got angry. And you know what an angry cat does? They kill somebody. And you know what he did? He killed Alice. And that was the end of it. Now Jean is mad. Everybody else is distraught. And you know what? It's time for a battle. Because, you know, we have to have it with a battle. It makes sense, you know? I mean, like, something like this is a conflict. Now, Neo knows that... Well, Neo Cat, I should say, or Curious Neo, he knows that he can't really leave. So guess what? He's going to beat the shit out of everybody here and take one of their bodies. Any one of them. Because she does know that they want to go back home. And she or he, I will say, or they, mostly they, but mostly he, because this is a Curious Cat mostly. The Neo doesn't really have much part of saying this, you know? So like, the Curious Cat, right? He will take one of their bodies. And what he does later is basically, throughout this and the first half of the next episode, the final episode, he basically tries to wear them down, saying that, you know, well, about RWBY, and it's like, they will wait for RWBY. If this fight's going to take until then, defeating them, they'll wait for RWBY. But then the cat's like, but you don't know if Ruby's going to be the same. She could be different, you know? And that's like the risk they're going to take. Basically trying to like get them down, right? Try to bring them down. And then just like also send out, because of Neo's power, send out zombie RWBYs. Like actual soulless husk of RWBY's body. And just let's send them out to battle, basically. And no hesitation, actually. Every single member here on the hero side, in quote unquote hero side, they all actually just fought the clones with no hesitation. And that's actually pretty good. But also maybe not good. You think they would have some trouble. But technically speaking, I'm guessing that they're just hardened enough for this and they know their goal. And I guess their resolution is very fast. I'm just gonna let you know, there's a lot of stuff they can do better in this episode. It's just that very, very fast paced because this is the second to last episode. We got to rush things, you know, have to get to the end. That's what matters. This is a very cool design, but I'm gonna say this right now. This technically, I would say this. Most of the fandom kind of sees this as a actual attractive thing, and to be honest. I actually really like this design, and honestly, I'm kind of with like that small, like casual crying. But here's the thing: when other people are like just kind of neutral because they like Neo, and then the Neo fans are like, she actually looks better this way. It is a little messed up, but to be honest, Not gonna lie, she kind of does. That's kind of my hot take with some people, other people, but like, I kind of like her design. Maybe, I don't know, but for other people, it might be just the hands. You know? Yeah, it could just be the hands. We all know who this is awakening for some people, you know? Oh boy. I don't know what Rooster Teeth has done. Why did they done this? Now, the order of what I'm saying could just be a little different because this is one part I actually edited in, okay? This is the one part I actually edited in. Before all that, before they start the fight, the actual fight, and then the cat actually like trying to get their morality down. Morality? Maybe morality. You know, their mindset to the bottom. The curious cat does see Ruby's tree, and then like he still has a chance. Once Ruby comes out, he's going to exit Neo and then going to deep throat Ruby next. You know? Yeah. That's what I'm gonna say now. I'm also tired, okay? I can't lie to you. I don't know what Rooster Teeth wants me to say. We basically kind of just start with the fight, right? Some of the fight, Ruby's decision. We end it there, and it's now time for the final episode. Ruby is basically here trying to think of who she wants to be, right? We got back to the fight. The cat's technically winning. However, they have a plan to actually get the tree use the environment to basically attack the curious cat. Basically, it's a very good fight scene for this one too. So I would just recommend watching it. Sorry, guys. The cat's like, hey, you know these leaves don't affect me. So he breathes in the vapor, right? He breathes in the vapor. He breathes in the weed. I'm just saying. And then Jean's like, yes, but we're not aiming for you. They're aiming at Neo because Neo's the only person who's not affected. So yeah, this thing of possessing bodies, the person who they're possessing still gets the effects even if the cat's immune, basically. And then, you know, the cat gets the hallucinations. The cat actually sees all the past memories of Neo, and he cannot take it because all these were all negative memories for Neo. And Neo at this point is also fighting back. Now, Neo does win. She does get her body back. However, yeah, we got the super curious cat. I don't know why, but this character design Rooster Teeth, I see what you're doing. More decision making from Ruby, and what she decides is to be herself. That's it. That's kind of it. It's very anticlimactic because the final choice is just herself. So the lesson here is just really just be yourself, you know? Which doesn't really solve her mental states, but at the very least now she does know that she has to be the best as she can. She does know that she has to be her. She cannot be like somebody else. She has to basically give herself 100%. And if she fails, so be it. She'll try again better the next time. Which is technically what she does before. So I don't understand what she kind of learned from this. I mean, she kind of knew this like, I'm not gonna lie, she kind of knew this in like possibly Volume 4 or possibly earlier. But you know what? With all the stress, I'm giving it a pass. You know, with all the stress that's been going, I'm giving her a pass because she has to rediscover herself. And to be honest, I do think that this kind of goes through the cycle of recovering from depression, but that's just my theory. But yeah, so continuing on, Ruby has returned. This is really just an epic scene actually, because the moment Ruby actually just comes back reincarnated as herself, she just gives the hands on the cat, and this is the epic shot And then the rest, and then the Team RWBY just basically beats the ever living crap out of the curious cat in his super form, I would say. So much, in fact, that they basically kind of made him back to normal. And then the cat gets grabbed by the entities, the clones of the entities. We all know who this is, right? And we know how this is going. Yeah, let's just say all of them are scarred for life. Oh yeah, you get scarred for life. What's the context of this? The Curious Cat get ripped into pieces and got eaten by the clones. You can thank Neo for that. And it makes sense. She got violated. With all this over, everybody basically got a group hug, and they all hugged RWBY. As for Neo, she has her technically last talk with her clone. And then, like, yeah. The clone, like, even the clone is like, yeah, I'm not real. And then the clone kind of just disappears. Yeah, turned to dust. Neo says her final goodbyes to everybody. They all got, like, some, like, mutual respect towards each other, I would say. Basically, like, don't worry, you're welcome. She did basically kind of just save them from the cat again because he was about to take over her body. But, yeah. Neo, after this, jumps off and then becomes one with the tree. Before they leave, RWBY looks back to see Neo. RWBY at this point kind of wants to see what will happen to Neo at this point. But everybody is like, RWBY, you're coming? It's like, yeah. So, like, they've gone off through the door. Oh, but before that, I forgot to tell you, the mouse actually reincarnated too. I don't know how the mouse got reincarnated, but technically speaking, I mean, the mouse did die, so any creature who dies in this world basically gets reincarnated automatically. So, the mouse got a new getup, basically. And the mouse doesn't know what her name is, basically, just like before. And she doesn't know who these people are because she lost her memories after reincarnation. But she does feel these guys as familiar. RWBY does say that you helped us a lot and you more than you know. And it's like, you're kind of right. I got the feeling of that, most likely. It's a very heartwarming scene, and I really like this. Also, I should say, the mouse is bigger. Like 3 feet tall. Yeah. Jean was now telling basically his big friend Juniper to actually go with the mouse as kind of a gift for what the mouse has done in the past for them, and basically to help protect ever after from other threats at this point. So yeah, it's kind of a happy ending. Most likely you guys might have to watch that. We do have them all holding hands and then traveling to the door. And then after that, they all notice that might notice that they're all in limbo right now. And this is technically where they talk with the tree and then they ask questions, basically. What would happen to the life in this world? Basically, kind of what we already expected. What would happen to Neo? The tree did say that Neo's heart is still in that decisioning stage in limbo. So whatever she chooses, she will either reincarnate or actually be part with the tree forever, basically. RWBY is kind of a little disappointed with that. And then Jean's like, what happened to Alice? And we did get more for Alice. And then the knife that he saw was like more confirmation that Alice, or at least her brother, was here. And then Alice basically was here too. Now, did Alice got reincarnated? Most likely, yes, but also no. We don't have more explanation on that, though. What happens later is that we do have more story. We have more lore. And the lore is the god of life and death. The god of creation and the god of destruction, basically. Now, the god of creation and destruction were born in ever after, okay? So, what happened is that they kind of create life and then destroy stuff. It's an equal balance of stuff. They didn't really like how it was in the beginning, but they kind of like lived through that and then got an understanding with each other. Later, they decided to we're getting bored. So why not we create entities to create life and something to destroy them? So yeah, the god of creation created the curious cat. The cat who is very curious and decides to give life to others and heal people's hearts, just like the cat it was doing before. And then the god of destruction basically just creates the entity, the Jabberwocky, to destroy anything that was unpure. And basically, it was kind of a balance between those two. It was always a curious cat versus the entity. Now, we got that more, and then like the gods kind of just like, let's just leave ever after, right? Or at the very least, like, okay, we'll continue doing this, but then the tree is like, listen, I'll give you a world to play with. So go there, carry on, like make your own people, watch over them, and that's it. And that's what they did. And we all know what happened after that. The story where Salem basically try to go up against the gods punish her, and then just like, if you don't change, we'll just leave the world, and after that, but it's never gonna be the same thing if you just, reincarnate Osmond multiple times, and then like yada yada. Then we got to present world basically. Yeah, that's kind of the story in a nutshell. And that's how the world was created. It was not created by what they thought was the Big Bang in RWBY. Because every world starts with a Big Bang, I guess. I don't know. But that's basically it. So after this, they did actually, after this very long talk, this talk really took like almost the entire episode. But after the big talk, they went back home. Not, well, of course, they cannot go back home yet. Not before Jean turns back to normal. And now Jean basically has his supposed younger body back. So, here's the thing. Is Jean back to being like 19 or 20? No. He's still 40. He's a 40-year-old in a 19-year-old's body. Let's just say that now. Also, Jean's like, after that, he's like, yes, my body, it's back. I feel so young. Wait, is that really what my voice sounds like? Yeah, Jean, that's what your voice sounds like. Now, I got very used to Jean's new voice. So hearing, like, Jean's, like, nerdy, Jean's, like, normal voice again is, like, very jarring. It's like, does he sound a bit more whinier? I don't know. Could it just be me? I don't I don't know. It's been so long since I heard his voice again. But hey, he's back to normal, and now they actually now gone to the portal. And we are ending this series. Yes, we're ending the series with an open ending. An open ending for a possible volume 10. Because we're now at the desert and they're just teleported to the town. We did not, this whole volume, we did not, and I repeat, we did not get the perspective of their friends in the other normal, in like the real world. We all just saw them in Ever After. We never know what the tiring task the friends did and the people went through in the desert. We never did. We all just assume that they just have a hard time and hopefully they're safe, and don't worry. Hopefully they're safe. I mean, have you seen all those ships in the sky? Anyway, is that a Star Wars ship right there? Is that the Enterprise? Jesus Christ. Is that the... Oh boy, that one looks like the... Why does that look like the Halberd? Is Meta Knight in this one? Oh, I hope Meta Knight might be in this one. Well, either way, that is it for the series. And yeah, that's kind of it for the series. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's really it for the series at this point. Because, yeah. So, you might be now wondering, why did I say the end of the series? Is RWBY still going? Aren't they still going? And to answer your questions right there, Rooster Teeth at this point in time, from the news I have right now, and this is technically like the gap between this recording and then the previous half of the recording, is basically like 3 weeks. I did have some news for you all that RWBY is basically coming back in the future sometime, but they never greenlit a new episode yet. They never greenlit a new volume. So they did say they got ready for volume 10. Okay, they are making volume 10. But there are 2 doubts I have right now. 1, the staff. Rooster Teeth's staff right now, they have no animators, and I repeat, they have no animators after the two crossover movies they have with Warner Brothers, which, to be honest, I mean, they're kind of meh. I don't really care about the Young Justice League, but I kind of like that they actually use the old. They have the updated old models. So, like, you know how the animation is like in this volume, and then, like, ever since, like, think, like, volume 7, they actually updated the animation. I think they started maybe in volume 5. I don't remember. But yeah, it's just the same. But imagine the old ones. Imagine the old models that they use in like early RWBY, like volume 1 through 3. And then use them for the crossover with the animation style that you see modernly. That is basically it. And is there gonna be anything else? No, because we don't know. That's like the only thing. No animators. They basically they laid off all the animators because of their contracts, and that was it. Now, what was the second reason? The second reason is this: the description of Volume 9 itself. The creators specifically say that we know that we will never, and I repeat, they said in the description, they might have changed this, like from what I last saw, but they say specifically this. And this is basically the first sentence. And then after that, it was a description of the volume. But this is what they say. We know that we will never finish defeating Salem or getting all the relics, but we are making Volume 9 the best as possible. They say they never, I don't know if I word that right. I think I worded that right. So like, yeah, they will never be able to defeat Salem or get all the relics, but they will say they make Volume 9 the best they can, which means that this is intention. They wrote themselves. They technically also means they wrote themselves to a corner already because of what they described in the lore and how the heroes really cannot defeat Salem. But this does also confirm that they also know that this series will not run forever, and saying that this volume, saying that they make this the best as they can, also means that this is the final volume of RWBY. That's what I'm gonna say. So yeah, that's kind of about it. I don't know what else. Will there be a volume 10? Me personally, I do hope they'll make a volume 10, but as of now, this is the final volume for RWBY and the end of the series. We end the series with an open note, open ending. We end the series with open ending. So yeah. So what about the volume itself? Personally, for me, I really like the other thing. I always have a soft spot for RWBY because like volumes 1 through 3 is like my beginning, and it's like, yeah, this is so good, and then like it gets darker and darker. It's like, okay, this is actually pretty good, but it could get a little too dark in some points. Volume 9 is that really big middle ground for me. There's some episodes that I really do like, but there's also episodes that I don't exactly have a very strong opinion or I don't really like about. Like, that's kind of, just kind of like that. If I'm going to be completely honest, I would technically out of a 10, right? Out of a 10. But the volume is a 7 at the very least. I do love the build-up that they have for this. They have very good fight scenes. One in particular that I really like, and that's the chessboard fight scene. I really love it, and it's so reminiscent to like how RWBY was before in the earlier volumes. Basically, we can technically count volume 5 and 6 in that regard as well. And the music too. The music was really like early RWBY. And it's like that was just good. Maybe it might just be my nostalgia, but like it's very good. As well, that the one thing I also do like is how how it feels. At least early volume 9, like the first half volume 9, does feel like a slight small progression from volume 1 all the way through to 8, basically. At least the theming, or at least the dark tone of it. There are still a few things I really do have an issue with this. And no, it is not the ship. It is not the forced ship. I actually will push that aside, because to be honest, that could be his own video, honestly, and I'm technically okay with it. It's just that it could have been handled a bit better. But the main big reasons why I don't really like it as much as the others, and to be honest, I think this is like just a slightly above volume 8, which volume 8 or 7, it's either volume 8 or 7. Volume 8 or 7, 8 or 7. I don't know which one, but that's like, those two volumes are the lowest points of RWBY for me, because I don't really like them at all. I like the characters, and I do like how they're making the story. It's just that there's some sort of political agenda right there that I think they try to sneak in for the modern take, and it's like, yeah, that won't age well. And I mean, the story is still good, it's just that in general. That's why it kind of makes it play down so much, because the political stuff that they're trying to do was actually at least like half of that volume. And I was like, nah, that I kind of am a little tired, and I am also a little tired of what's just happening in the real world at the time. And yeah, it did not really age. You can not already tell what they're trying to pull off from that. Volume 9 is kind of just down there, but at least like 7 out of 10 is still pretty much higher than what I will give one of those volumes. But like, it's like third best, because two problems. One, the pacing of this volume is just terrible. At the very end, you can already tell that they're trying to rush everything. They got good plot points. RWBY dying, Curious Neil, the tree, the fights too. Like, at the very end, it's just pretty much rushed. The pacing is also just rushed too. The only other thing is that it might just be a nitpick too, but the nitpick I do have is the amount of episodes. If this was again 15 episodes, the pacing would have been better, and I'm hoping that it would be too. But this is also the volume that gave me some sort of shimmer of hope for the series. Because here's the thing, the writing for RWBY from 7 and 8 were pretty average. Like, it still works, but like the writing for it is kind of average. And I feel like, yeah, you got the plot points in, that's pretty good. But how they got to it is either kind of seems like it doesn't make sense, or like there's barely any context of that, or like it's kind of like an epic foreshadowing, which if that was the case, that's pretty good. But yeah, that's kind of how I think. The writing for this, it would be better as well, but that's also a nitpick. The writing is pretty much fine, but if it had more episodes, you could basically flesh out all the problems I technically have, like Jean's sudden character change. That could have been more explained in more episodes. Death of RWBY could linger on for like maybe 2 more episodes, or at least 1 more episode. I think maybe 1 more episode, because that's like a good thing. Like, have 1 episode for them just like in shock of RWBY's death, and then trying to move on from it, or something like that. Which technically speaking they did, but like very quick. Also, the other problem would be like the relationship between Blake and Yang. That could be explored even more. Like, have them connect together, right? You can still have that force trope. You can still have the force trope, because they did that pretty well. But like, have some moments with them afterwards. Like, after them officially being together, what are they gonna do now? What's their plans for the future? Who knows? We'll never know, because we never got an episode that actually just focused on that. But yeah, I do wish they have more episodes, and I do wish the pacing was a bit better, and more episodes would actually help. Could it be their budget thing? Probably, because they did have to pay Warner Brothers for the crossover But yeah, that's kind of about it. Overall, I love the volume, and finally we got like Bumblebee being a real thing. But a lot of few plot points could have been better. But hey, it is what it is, and that's about it. At the end of the day, I'll give this volume a 7 out of 10. And for the series as a whole, I don't know if I could tell you now. But I will tell you, okay, but I'll tell you now. 8.5 out of 10, honestly. If I'm counting like the other 2 volumes I hate, which is like 7 and 8. If those 2 were basically like, if I'm counting them, it would be 7. It would be an 8.5 out of 10, honestly. And what I would still recommend the series. I would just still warn them about like the technical agenda that they actually do have in like volumes 7 and 8, and then like 9's rushed appeal, basically like rushed nature, most likely. So yeah, that's it for the super long review video for volume 9 of RWBY. It might be over 2 hours long, but I hope you actually enjoyed my rants, my opinions, and so on. Until then, remember, these are all just my opinions, and after this video, I might change my mind for a lot of stuff. So if you see my comment in this video saying like some of the points I changed my mind on, you would know. But just remember, after this video, I would already change my mind because, you know, it's RWBY. I'm just a big sucker for RWBY. So like some of these problems I have are usually nitpicks at the end, at least for me. So yeah, I'm Sampo. I'll catch you guys next time, and let's hope for volume 10, shall we? Watch, it's gonna take 5 years.